Hello, everybody. I hope you're all safe and well. Looking forward to your first haircut of 2021, some much needed sunshine and maybe a trip to the local boozer. I'm Paul Cash. I'm pretty sure most of you don't know who I am, but here's a quick 60-second intro from me. So I'm a 25-year veteran and evangelist of business to business and technology marketing. I've been lucky enough to have founded and exited 2 previous marketing agencies in the past 20 years. I'm currently the founder of the B2B storytelling agency Rooster, which is my 3rd and hopefully greatest adventure yet. Now, I want to tell you 2 stories that most people don't know about me. The first one, I foolishly turned down a check for 19 million. Yes, 19 million. There's a lot of zeros on the end of that. For my first creative agency, a company called Tidal Wave. I was young, clearly very stupid, and wished I hadn't. And the second is I was invited to lunch at Sir Richard Branson's house in Oxford with a group of other entrepreneurs. And myself and my business partner ended up brainstorming an outdoor advertising campaign for Virgin Atlantic with him, literally on a napkin with a Sharpie pen. And to my great surprise, that idea went into production and ran 6 months later. Now, I guess the main reason I'm here is due to the imminent launch of my new book called Humanizing B2B, which is out on April 27th via Amazon, most book publishers. I think I've got about 15 minutes to share my point of view and my passion on the exciting world of B2B marketing. So let's get to it. So at the heart of the book that I've written is a very simple idea, too simple almost, and it's this: businesses do not sell to other businesses. They fundamentally sell to human beings. And just because people like you and I turn up for work, it doesn't mean we turn off our personalities or that we suddenly start acting in strangely weird, logical, and rational ways. The raw truth of humanity, us as human beings, is that we are in fact irrational, illogical, and unpredictable most of the time. And that's what makes marketing fun. You know, the scientific research that's been done in the last 5 years alone tells us unequivocally that today business buyers and decision makers buy on emotion and justify with fact. I'll say that again. They buy on emotion and justify with fact. And yet still today, most B2B marketing is fixated on the facts, on the product, on the features, on the speeds and feeds, and struggle to connect and engage with customers on that higher emotional level. And this book, in its purest form, aims to show you why connecting on an emotional level is a good thing, both from a marketing and a commercial perspective, and ultimately how to bring some humanity and soul into your marketing communications. In simple terms, I talk about moving from an era dominated by features to an era dominated about feelings. Now, ever since I fell into B2B marketing, and let's face it, most of us fall into B2B, and that was back in the early 90s with the great American Hewlett-Packard. And I've loved the fast-paced, exciting nature of tech, but equally I've been frustrated with it's often a very myopic mindset that B2B marketing was simply the servant of sales and all it was good for was lead generation. And I hated, and I mean hated, the fact that the more glamorous B2C agencies seemed to be doing all the exciting and interesting stuff, and B2B was always a second-class citizen and labeled with that B2 boring tag. Now, I've always held a deep-rooted belief that business-to-business marketing was destined for more than this, and I've dedicated the latter part of my career to trying to take B2B marketing in a new direction. And what I mean by that is away from the traditional product, services, solutions, speeds and feeds marketing that we're all really familiar with, to something altogether more human, more purposeful, and ultimately transformational. And that's what this book is all about. It's there to inspire, but also to democratize the notion of a more human approach to B2B. Call it a philosophy. And at its core are 5 very simple principles. The first is a recognition that it's about people and not products. The second is it's about purpose that's actioned. The third is about putting emotion at the core of everything you do. The fourth, it's about leveraging something that I call brand likability. And finally, it's about using the power of narrative and story to engage and influence people. So I want to be really clear. This isn't a book for the big brains and the super intellectual of B2B marketing. This is a book for everyone else. For people who don't really read marketing or business books, we've tried to make it inclusive, knowing that if humanizing B2B as a concept is to become a philosophy at the heart of forward-thinking business brands, then we need to democratize this thinking to the masses. And hopefully that's what this book does. There's something in it for everyone. It's easy to read. So if you get a chance to buy it via on Kindle or the paperback, I really hope you enjoy it, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and give me some feedback. Now, one of the things we talk about in the book is the notion of this idea that there is a meteor about to land on the B2B sector. And so I want to talk to you about this real and present crisis that we're facing as marketeers. And that's that in order for our profession to be taken seriously at board level, we have to get off this hamster wheel of what I would call short-term lead generation, the tactical marketing, and wake up to things like the power of purpose, the power of brand, the power of emotion, and that of storytelling. And it was a friend of mine called Joe Gilhooly, who was at the time a senior marketeer at Hewlett-Packard, and she said it best to me over lunch one day. She said, "Paul, marketing is a bunch of tactical levers that need to be pulled. I'm not a marketing director, I'm a lever puller." And by levers, she meant email marketing, social media, direct mail, Google AdWords, content marketing, and all those other tactics of lead gen beloved by B2B marketeers all over the world. And she said it with such sadness. She didn't want to be a lever puller. And if you've ever felt like Joe, then this book is really for you. Now, in my humble opinion, we really do have to stop chasing what seems often irrelevant marketing KPIs and that kind of search for incremental gains in what we do, and start looking at the transformational power that marketing offers for it to be the growth engine of the modern B2B brand. No longer just kind of the servant of sales, but its absolute peer and equal. And that means embracing what I call these master levers of B2B: purpose, brand, emotion, and storytelling. If we don't, what are the consequences? Well, I think we're going to find the emerging chief growth officers and those with a more commercial bias will start to take over more of the marketing activity, and we will simply become the lead generation department. And I'm sure that anybody who is as passionate about me would hate for that to happen. I'm sure you would too. So this is our moment to rise up, to show our value. I know that's easier said than done, but we have to believe in something better. And the pandemic has put a spotlight on both brand and marketing in a new and more positive way. And it definitely feels like there's a reset that we've all been yearning for happening right now. But with that reset comes greater pressure and greater responsibility. The good news is that there is a growing amount of robust research which talks about the importance of these master levers in B2B. And when they are in play, they amplify the tactical levers around them. So feel free to check out information sources from Binet and Field, the long and the short of it, the B2B version, and also the excellent work the B2B Institute and LinkedIn do to promote the commercial power of brand and creativity in B2B marketing. Now, the question I often get asked is why now? After all, we've been talking about a more human approach to B2B for at least a decade. It's nothing new. But in my humble opinion, there are three things that are happening right now which make it really relevant. The first is timing. So the pandemic has been a catalyst for all types of B2B companies to rethink and reset. And many organizations across the globe are going through a generational change. They are repositioning, pivoting, and adapting to the new world. The second is mind space, or more specifically, a lack of it. We all know that today's business buyers are super busy. They are overwhelmed with choice. They're confused by industry and technology jargon. They crave simplicity. They absolutely want clarity. And they've created all these mental shortcuts on how to evaluate brands. And it's anything but the logical and rational criteria that we think it is. And thirdly, and this is probably the most important one, is a change of mindset. So by mindset, I mean that in a nutshell, people don't want to simply buy from companies anymore. They want to buy into them. Let me say that again. They don't want to buy from companies anymore. They want to buy into them. And to me, this changes everything and begs the question, what do we need to do as brands to get our customers to buy into us? So this is a new era in B2B where people value companies not just by their products and solutions or the functional nature of what they do, but by their culture, their people, their values, what they stand for, what they fight for, what they believe in, and ultimately how true and authentic they are to all these things. B2B brands today are becoming more and more meaningful. They're becoming badges of our own self-identity, very similar to the way brands operate in the consumer world. And at the heart of this is what I call brand and purpose, two relatively new tools in the box for most B2B marketeers. And there are no doubt cynics amongst you who will say, I've heard it all before, and there's newbie marketeers who will be lapping this kind of stuff up because it's got real energy behind it. But let's be clear. This stuff is incredibly hard to get right. On its own, brand isn't the answer, purpose isn't the answer, storytelling and emotion aren't the answer. But each and every one of us is, because we hold the opportunity to be able to shape the mindsets of the companies we work for and ultimately shape where we want to take business to business marketing. After all, it's people who power organizations, people who are the ones who make decisions, people are the ones who innovate, people in terms of our customers are the irrational, cautious, crazy, and unpredictable element in the sales and marketing equation. And it's their fears, their hopes, their insecurities and ambitions that we're all trying to tap into. Now, in my book, I use a number of diagrams to illustrate what's happening in B2B. And one of those is about a secret language that we must all learn if we're to be successful. Now, I'm pretty sure that everyone on this session will be familiar with the magical power of Simon Sinek's Golden Circle. And in homage to Sinek, I've created my own version that I simply call the Golden Triangle. And it goes something like this. So we start at the base of the triangle, and the first language we have to learn in any company is what I call the language of product. We need to know what we're selling. It makes total sense. We need to be able to communicate with other people in the business on a product level. And this is the language of product fit, of innovation, of R&D, of engineering, development. In short, think of it as the form and the function, the speeds and feeds of what you do. And this is how marketing always used to be. You could get by with only knowing and communicating this one language. But over the past, I would say 5 to 10 years, B2B sales and marketing has moved up to the next level on the triangle and started talking in what I would call the language of the customer. And yes, this is a good thing, but if you thought products were complicated, wait until you try to understand people. So the language of customer is about knowing who you are selling to. It's about understanding and insight. It's about knowing the answer to the question, hey, Mr. Customer, what keeps you awake at night? The problem is every vendor, every supplier asks that same question. And in the most part, they're all trying to fulfill some form of conscious need the customer has. Yet the smartest marketeers, the smart salespeople, are the ones who ask a slightly different question, which is, hey, Mr. Customer, what's not keeping you awake at night but should be? And for those who are familiar with the Challenger sales model, this approach is far more effective than simply meeting a conscious need. So think of this in terms of pains and gains. And right at the top of the triangle, at the peak, is a new language, which I call the language of emotion. And this is ultimately the language of how to sell. It's about tapping into human truths, emotions, and feelings. It's about a blend of neuroscience and behavioral economics and psychology. It touches on the realms of influence and persuasion, but it all boils down to one thing, and that's storytelling. Because in my honest opinion, storytelling is the language of emotion. And the quicker as marketeers we can practice it and master it, the better we're going to become. So why am I telling you all of this? So the point is simple. If marketing is to progress, if we're to really and truly demonstrate our value as a profession, to step up our game, to become invaluable to the companies we serve, then we absolutely must become experts in people and not just experts in what we sell or the big tactics of B2B marketing. Say that again. We have to become experts in people. I can't emphasize this enough. New technologies and new marketing tactics will come and go, but people don't fundamentally change. And if you want a long and rewarding career in B2B, become an expert in people. Spend more time understanding human psychology and physiology, and we will all be better marketeers, full stop. So finally, I just want to share with you a rather curious social experiment that was conducted back in 2009 by two friends called Rob Walker and Josh Green. And what they did is they purchased cheap trinket items from local bric-a-brac and charity shops. Think paperweights, wooden animals, jewelry boxes, and such like. And they asked a group of 100 creative writers to invent stories about those insignificant items. They then posted the stories and the objects onto eBay to see whether the invented story actually enhanced the value of the object. Now, to put this into context, the original 100 items were purchased for a total of just $129. And yet they sold on eBay for a whopping $3,612. And that's a 2,700% markup. Now, the most highly valued pairing was a global paperweight that was bought for just $1.49, but sold for just under $200. And it was married together with a really moving handwritten story about failed romance, infidelity, and the search for love. And the significant objects experiment, as it became known, is a real test to the power of storytelling and how attaching meaning to something beyond its functional value can be transformational. And we can absolutely 100% apply these techniques to our B2B marketing. So that's kind of me wrapping up now. I think there's going to be an interview on BBTV. I just want to say, if you get a chance to read the book or share the book with a friend, feel free to contact me. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. That's great. Thank you. Over and out for me. Stay safe.